Hi, Karen. So I chose Beebo Brinker to redo because I didn't like the covers and I didn't think they did the story justice. What I interpreted from the book, I'll just kind of leave this here. What I interpreted from the book was that it was kind of like a coming of age story. I don't like using that phrase necessarily, but Beebo goes through all these sort of identity shifts, but the thing is she keeps viewing her identity through the eyes of other people, like through how Jack sees her, or through how the people back at home sees her, and she's like struggling with, oh, am I being enough of a woman, like how people back at home defined what a woman is. Am I fitting into that? And then she comes to New York and she's concerned with Mona, like, oh, am I enough of a lesbian? Am I experienced enough? And she's struggling with this through the eyes of so many different people, and she's struggling to just like let go and kind of be herself. And I just wanted to really pinpoint that that's what this story is about. It's about identity. It's about this ever-changing shift, and that, you know, you're not really ever going to find the defining point of this is who I am, because identity's fluid. Everything that goes with that is sexuality, gender. It's all constantly changing. And so that's like the main thing that I wanted to focus on with this book cover. The detail that stood out to me the most was the focus on drinks. Jack teases Beebo about drinking milk. She drinks peppermint schnapps. There's Leo's orange juice. There's all these drinks that are like shifting within the story. And so I designed the cover with a focus on that, with Beebo leaning against a table, looking into a glass of milk. I made all of the colors dusty because I didn't want anything to seem too harsh or too like solid, because everything is kind of shifting in this book, specifically identity. But her skin stands out the most, and it's pink, because in her eyes, she is so concerned with her gender, with her sexuality, and she doesn't feel she fits in. So I wanted this to stand out and show that she doesn't quite fit in. She doesn't quite fit in her skin. Even the color is popping out of the black lines a little bit. The milk covers a part of her face, like her mouth, her chin, and we can't see that part of her at all. Like it's covered up by something else. And the part above that, the top of the glass, it warps her image. Like when you're looking through a cup, you're looking through two panes of glass, and that shifts the way you see what's on the other side. Even though you can make sense of oh yeah, that's a person on the other side, it warps her face a little bit. And these show like two different perspectives of projecting onto her or warping her a little bit. And then the outside part of her is her, another way of seeing her, but we never get this inside of how she's seeing herself. So these are all of the ways that she's observing herself, like through other people, but also ways of just people observing her and shifting who she is. Even the title, Beebo Brinker, like the yellow is popping out of the black lines. And this relates to how she doesn't quite fit in these defined lines, not the way that the milk is fitting into the defined lines of the vessel, the cup that it's contained in. Like she can't quite be contained, and she's exploring how this works. Although the milk is contained in this clearly defined vessel, it can be spilled. The liquid that goes in the cup can change. It can spill out. It can be transferred, and that's what Beebo's identity does in this book. Her drink preferences show this. She starts off with the milk and then the peppermint schnapps, and by the end, she's drinking scotch and water. She's constantly taking in her vessel, pouring it out, transferring, looking into it. She's constantly showing that although there's this idea of strict definitions and about gender, about being a woman, about sexuality, she's exploring that it can shift, it can be fluid, just like the liquid within the vessel of the cup. The title, Beebo Brinker, has curved lettering. It's bold, but it's soft and has no sharp corners. She's struggling to fit into what society is telling her what it means to be a woman, what it means to have a female sexual identity, to have soft curves like this lettering. And she's struggling to fit into that. So the yellow is bleeding out of the black lines because she doesn't quite fit into what society is telling her to be. On the bottom, I added just this little phrase that says, "Nothing seems to quench Beebo's thirst," because I wanted to make the cover not so serious and kind of like teasing, a little bit of sexual innuendo, but also just something really cheesy, because I think the book is cheesy. And I like that it's cheesy. I wanted this line to read kind of like an overdramatic soap opera tagline and just create some humor in it, because this book, I don't think it should be taken super seriously, but I think it also has like a historical significance. On the back cover, I added more cups. I added Leo's orange juice, but it's being spilt out. And I added an empty cup just to go back with that theme of the vessel, of identity changing, of things not being so like strictly defined. And I also just added a couple sentences on the top just showing that Beebo was a disappointment in 1962, but in the early 2000s, it was quoted as the most iconic figure in all of lesbian fiction, and I wanted to create something that really focused on time and how who is Beebo today to people today? Who was she then? Has it changed? And even though we talk about sexual identity more today, is that enough? Is there something else that needs to be changed? Are we repeating our past actions, or have we grown? And I think these are the big questions. For the back cover, I just found reviews from Amazon because I thought that those reviews mattered a little bit more than like a professional criticism. I wanted the voices of actual women that read this book and their thoughts on it. So I just added 3 different ones that I thought encompassed a few different things. Like the first one, it talks about social and historical significance, but it also just says, hey, it's a damn fine read. And I like that because it makes it accessible to people that don't want something that's so serious, that's so like, okay, today we're going to talk about the significance of this. Like, no, it's a narrative. It's a story, a fiction about a woman, but it's not told in like such a serious way. The second one I liked because it says it's annoying and melodramatic, but that she couldn't stop reading it. And I like that because, like I said with the little tagline on the bottom, it is a little melodramatic sometimes. Sometimes it is annoying, but you have to take into consideration that it was written in the 60s and it is dated now, but it still has significance today, and it doesn't mean that it's bad today. The last review I liked the most because it really just asks, like, where does this book stand in society today? Have things changed enough with sexual identity, acceptance? Have we started to accept diverse characters within our lives, within stories? And I think that's the big question. So the audience I'm trying to target is young adult, teenager, 20s, because I think during that time you're just going through all this crazy, like, what's my sexuality, what's my identity, and you go through that through life. But during that time, it's very prevalent, and it would be comforting to just have a book like this to explore something like that and to show that, hey, this has existed for a long time. And I think it would be cool not just for sexuality, because I'm a straight female and I got a lot out of this book. And so I think no matter if you're struggling with sexual identity or with something else, you can get a lot out of this. And so I think it would be cool for young adults to have this included. Okay, so one last thing. The publisher, I chose Penguin Classics. I should probably know more about publishers than I do, but I chose them because I think like this book can be a part of the Western canon of this fiction novel about lesbians, about sexual identity. I think why not? Why can't that be included in the canon? Because it was written a while ago in the 60s and it's still being read today. And it would be interesting if this was a part of the canon, if this was something that more people read or thought they should read, where we would be today, like what effect that would have on people. And so yeah, I made it a part of Penguin Classics. Thanks for watching my video.